Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week, testing out a new microphone and a podcast. So, this is the Austrian Audio OC18. It'll probably sound a very different situation from the RE20 I've been using, and I'm a little further away because I'm trying to get used to being at that 4 to 6 inch range as opposed to right up on the microphone. And so it'll be weird, but again, this is a voice acting microphone that I'm going to use, and I've been using it for YouTube videos and voice acting for this past week, and I'm going to be using it for the podcast, and hopefully it sounds good. Again, it might sound weird, might sound a little quiet, but this is kind of practice for me in a way. And I get to practice by talking about a game that I beat a couple months ago, that being Ys Origin. So Ys Origin was a game that I've been wanting to do an Ys game forever on the channel, ever since Ys 8 was 6 years ago. But, other people wanted other games in, so I made a judgment call to get an Ys game on here. And Ys Origin was picked from the bunch, and I don't regret it. That being said, there's only so much to talk about it because it's 3 of the same playthrough with 3 different characters. So there's only so much you can do. And realistically, the gameplay is going to be it's going to be similar but different. The bosses, pretty much the same, barring one run. And it's very much what you see is what you get. But they all kind of interweave stories together. So you do need to play all 3. Specifically the last one for it all to make sense and round out. And the biggest thing is it is a prequel to Ys 1 and 2. And it doesn't feature at all. So it's weird in that sense. And I like it and I don't like it at the same time. Mostly because each character is different in their own way, for good and bad. But yeah, realistically, the 3 characters are Unica Tova, Hugo Fact, and Toll Fact. Unica is a neophyte warrior knight sent down in a search party trying to figure out what this big fuck-off tower known as Darm Tower is doing, and also to find missing goddesses, Rhea and Fina. So Rhea and Fina have taken control of this thing known as the Black Pearl, which is nasty, nasty, nasty shit. They don't know what they're going to do with it. So Unica doesn't really know what's going on, but is kind of their friend. Shows up in their grove and their garden sanctuary here and there, and is their friend and talks to them and stuff. And then she takes it upon herself to find them herself. And her whole thing, which I feel gets overused too much, is that she doesn't have magic. I understand it, but it's too much from a gameplay perspective, because she can do just about as well as anybody else in the game. You don't really need to worry about her not having magic because it's still fucking good. What she does instead is she uses an axe, and she swings it very, very fucking fast. I'm honestly kind of shocked how she can use a heavy axe with such speed. She plays the closest to Adol, which is fun, because instead of a sword, stabby stab, she uses an axe swing stab thing. And she spins around very fast and does cool stuff with it, like a whirlwind attack, or she does fire stuff, or just this massive strike. And the massive strike can be used to just destroy hardened enemies and stuff. Might as well kind of get to the layout of the game because it all fits together with all 3. But while Unica is traveling around, the fire attack is actually something from her father, her late father. She finds out that her daughter or her dad was the commanding officer of a search part. Actually, he went on his own down on the planet by himself, trying to figure out just going south and what the demons are doing with this giant fuck off tower. So they know that this tower into the sky is trying to do something to the Solomon Shrine that's up in the sky, but they don't know what. So Unica's father falls in battle, but he bequeaths his sword to Unica, who ends up using it as like a super firebird like attack, like a projectile attack. And it's really cool because it's her ranged move. Because the early stuff is just whirlwind, spinny, short range. The other one is this big thonk, this big thud, and it gets used to decent effect, but it's very short range and it's a vertical attack. And the Firebird attack from the Lotus Blade is just fucking fantastic because it's long distance. So while you're going around doing all these things throughout the game, you're getting these different stages. A standard stage, a water stage, complete with a fucking drowning mechanic, which is dumb. You got a fireplace, which does fire stuff. A sand place, which does, oddly enough, ice physics on the sand. I don't get it. I guess they didn't want to do an ice level. But a sand place with ice physics. You get double jump there. You get to this place called the Blighted Blood, where a lot of the story stuff happens, and I'll save myself for that. Oh yeah, spoilers for story shit. You didn't see me play it. Anyway, or if you haven't played it yourself, spoiler warning. Duh. Anyway, so Blighted Blood is pretty standard fare, but it's got some pools of blood in it because it's called Blighted Blood. Then a final area called Demon Place, which also has got a hall of like crazy mirror stuff near the end. You blow up a bunch of mirrors, or you walk in through a bunch of mirrors and you blow a couple up, and you fight the final bosses. The final bosses being, in most cases, it's going to be Zava, who is a sorceress, and she keeps mocking people because she's a good sorceress lady, but she's evil, and she revels in it, and she sends familiars like weird shit after you. Kishgal, who was the murderer of Unica's dad, who kind of like, he's weird because all he really talks about is, I want to fight strong people. I just want to fight strong people. That's his whole thing. Is he revels in fighting strong people, and he's used demonic power to buffer himself. He's kind of there. Once you're done with Unica's playthrough, like, his matter in the story doesn't really matter much. And then there's Dals, who is the big bad evil jerk, and does the same thing Zava does, but worse. And you fight him at the end, and he turns into the crazy final boss thing, which is kind of crazy. What he tends to do is, like, in the Blighted Blood segments, he shows up and either tries to coerce people to his side, which is true for the second playthrough. You get Unica, who her friends in the Night Corps just turned to stone, so she can find a way out of it. And then Toll, nothing happens. Later on, he has his own thing a little bit later near the end, but in a separate section of the game, they find out that Yugo had been tempted, and then whatever, so it's kind of a side version of the Yugo playthrough, which I'll get to in a second, and the Toll one, which is like Yugo falls for temptation because he's stupid, and I hate Yugo anyway. But Unica doesn't use magic, but she stabs things, and she stabs it really hard. She's looking for the goddesses. She finds them in her playthrough, and fights off Dals and all the others, and manages to survive and whatnot. But only succeeds to an extent, because again, the story doesn't really end until you get to Toll's playthrough. But you get an earnest person out of it. Unica is unsure of herself. She's new to this, but she wants to do her best, and she's very determined and courageous, but not in the This is stupid, like whiny, like she doesn't want to do it. No, she'll take initiative. She's just unsure of herself the entire time. So it's frustrating from that perspective, but at the same time endearing because a female axe wielder. She's an axe murderer girl. It's great. And she beats up demons with her axe, and it's great. So Unica gets time with her dad. She has some friends in the core. She doesn't really interact with Yugo or Toll a whole bunch, but it does fine. Also, if you hear noises in the background, I'm sorry. I'm recording this at night, and you might hear some fucking cars. I don't think you will. Yeah, I'm definitely hearing some noise right now, but whatever. I'm doing the thing. I'm gonna record it. I don't fucking care. But Unica's playthrough happens. You fight off the big bad people, and you get to Yugo's playthrough. And I will say this, I hate Yugo with a passion. You play Yugo's playthrough just to get to Toll's playthrough. But let's just get the good out of the way first. Evil girl from the first playthrough, Epona, becomes sort of a friendly ally in this playthrough. And it's great. Because she's the only reason you want to play the second playthrough. Because Yugo pretty much plays like Annie. I have an inferiority complex, but I'm going to be super great, and you suck, and I'm going to be super powerful, but oh no, I got turned by evil because I'm dumb, and people suck. And then Epona tries to stab him and get him out of it, and then shit happens, and it's like, dude, you're only good because Epona's good. You suck. Like, his whole motivation, Yugo, he's this wizard guy from this wizard school, from this wizard family, and I get it. All this fucking pressure and whatever, and his dad is probably some weird, super abusive dickhead. We'll come back to that in a second. Who molds him into an heir because Toll decided, no, I'm just going to become a knight instead. Fuck you guys. Whether Toll knew what was going on or not, whether the goddesses knew what was going on or not, Yugo now resents Toll and all that shit. The problem is, unlike, say, on a Haseo thing, where his angstiness and bullshit, which is understandable given his situation, and .hack GU, like, they don't speed read that. They give you basically 3 games, to learn that he's a bit of a dick, but then he starts to, like, not be such a fucking prick. You learn to understand why it happens. They speed read that shit instead of, like, 20 to 40 hours into, like, 5. And it doesn't really add up because you're basically retracing Unica's steps. Yugo has these, like, eyes of fact, right? And what they do is they shoot stuff, from his shoulders, and he shoots things, and he gets, like, a force shield around him that's kind of crap. He gets some mines that are kind of crap, but they do some damage. His skill set is fine, but it doesn't really manifest great, and I didn't really like playing as him. I just like shooting things. I thought shooting from range was cool, but his other attacks and skills were dumb, and, it was easier than Unica's, but it's more just the suffering of having to go through, oh, you left us. I hate you, brother. You suck. And, oh, you're going to tempt me? You want me to be strong? Well, whatever. I think you guys suck, but I'll take you up on the offer anyway. So Dal's turns him on his side for, like, 15 fucking minutes. And then Epona just smacks him out of it and then suffers. Like, the problem with this fucking thing is, like, you're trying to tell this story, but the East games are decent story, but, nothing you haven't seen before. And then you're trying to tell this, like, sort of nuanced thing about this kid who has this inferiority complex, which is kind of stupid because, as we find out, Toll just kind of like, you're better at this anyway, so I let you have it. Kind of like, not this nonchalance, but like, Toll is just sitting there going, dude, you're better suited for magic than I ever was, and I think you would be better suited for it. I'm sorry that you dealt with our pissant of a dad, but, you know, it is what it is. Toll, at least, I mean, Toll's thing is he's taken demon blood and demon stuff into him, and he's turned into this claw-wielding maniac who joins the evil party of Zava and Epona and whatever. You don't fight Epona at all. I don't know why you fight Kishko, but he joins it anyway because he just wants fights with people. They turn on him later because of course they fucking do, you know, or he turns on them, but they knew he would turn on them because they're not stupid. I do like that he doesn't have to fight the weird wizard boss with the fire cages and the pew 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 shit in the tower and the annex, you know, so that's kind of nice. You bypass one of the bosses. I hated fighting twice, you know, because you do have to fight bosses more than once, and, you know, certain people are better at certain fights than others. There's this, like, really bad, like, there's this bad fight. Like, the first two bosses suck. They all suck, but in different ways. I think the third boss is the easiest. But, like, the first boss, you have to do damage to his face at the bottom, and then you climb up the... I'm talking major bosses, not the, like, every fifth floor there's, like, a mini-boss kind of thing. I'm talking major fucking bosses that they hide there. And first giant fucking face that spews bubbles at you, but you have to climb up the arms, and they don't have, like, can't fall off. Like, you can fall off really fucking easy, and it made jumping hard because you have a limited time to hit his exposed weakness, and it's just like, fuck, let me just jump on the thing and stay there. No. So it doesn't matter who you're playing as, you fall off all fucking time. Then you have the second main boss, who's this giant snake centipede thing with different segments. He poops out mines at you and shoots electricity and all sorts of shit, and you're supposed to, like, break different pieces, and it's hard to do, and he tries to eat you while he's curling around. It's this weird physics puzzle kind of thing. Third boss, you're fighting on a fire pit, but the guy's kind of easy, so he's not really challenged. Fourth boss is a dude that shoots a shit ton of projectiles at you, and you gotta beat these weird fucking like stationary targets, and then beat the shit out of him for a bit, and then do more stationary targets. All the while he's shooting like the mummy scarabs and shit at you, you know. Fifth boss has a very long ranged attack stuff. It's really irritating because he does that. His whole goal is to just stab the fuck out of you from distance, and, you know, he'll try to revive himself with little squirrely creatures and babies and junk, but you gotta kill them. And, like, those are the main bosses. And then you get Zava's fine, Kishkol's annoying but fine, Epona's really easy. Dal's, honestly, if you're leveled up, is easy. You just hack and slash in different segments and different weaknesses and just avoid his crazy stupid bullshit. The hardest bosses are the first two because their mechanics are so fucking wonky. This is a game much like East 3, the remake version. I think it's the same engine, where they do some platforming, and their platforming is pretty loose and kind of shit. So it's kind of shit, and it's hard to manage that in a boss fight. But you deal with it, and you survive. But getting back to Toll, like, he gets some separate bosses, but after a while you still fight the same bosses. But you fight his father at the end, and that's a crazy-ass fucking fight. And thankfully, if I'm level 50, it doesn't really matter a whole bunch. So I'm level 50, but I survived it, hooray, and I did it. Toll's whole thing is he just claws people. He does some other attacks, but yeah, he just claws from short distance. So he stabs, and he gains demon powers, and he stabs, and he does demon powers and stuff. I mean... Oh. Sorry. Bad sneeze. Very sorry about that. My voice will get back to normal in a second. Really, Yu-Gi-Oh's playthrough sucks. I mentioned that a few times, but you get to Tolls. And the reason you want to get to Tolls isn't just to get to the final boss. What you finally kind of get not just Toll's story, you get the story of the goddesses Rhea and Fina, and that's really the important thing, because they explain like their reason. Like you kind of know the reason already from the perspective of the Unica and Yugo playthroughs, but by and large you're not like directly told everything, and you're not really told their motivation until you get to Toll's playthrough, so you need to do the other two. And what's important is hearing it from them, and you get a sort of like pseudo love story with Toll and one of the goddesses, which is also kind of nice and bittersweet and melancholic. But it's one of those things where the stories in and of themselves aren't bad. They just exist. And you just have to kind of reconcile that the game is about the gameplay. If you want hacky slashy East gameplay, you do hacky slashy East gameplay. It's great. If you want substantial storytelling, you're probably going to have to go somewhere else. Like, it's serviceable, but it's nowhere near like the scope of an East 8. It kind of falls back into those like, we need enough of a story to get people interested, but you're here for the fighting. I'm reminded of like the way a Castlevania or a Bloodstained does their story, or a Mega Man game does it. No, Mega Man is less. I would say, yeah, more like a Castlevania style game where you're given some stuff, but you're here for the fighting mechanics, and their fighting mechanics are good. You know, seeing a prequel to the first two games and kind of seeing like where the games come from, you know, because I think this was actually released before the remake of 1 and 2 on the PSP, but at the time, like, it was a PC game. Like, the first two games were only on the PC, so it's crazy to see the jump in scope from that, and to see where they'd go with 8, falter a little bit with 9 and 10, because 9 and 10 are good, but you know, East games are not known for their story, so you get enough of it. I think once you get through Yugo's into Toll's story, it finally starts to make sense, and it's enough. But by then, you're also under the realization that you're fighting in the same tower. You're fighting the same bosses. Few differences here and there with Toll's, but by and large, it's the same bosses. So you're getting some story details and differences and stuff, and I think that might be interesting. But other than beating the game faster, there's not really much difference. And once you beat it once, you're kind of happy to have beaten it. If you want to do it on a different difficulty, then you can. And I will say this, I played it on easy and still had a pretty hard time in most cases. Hard enough for the bosses, I think. It very much works on get the right level or you fucking die, right? So level up, and level up properly. But would I recommend Ace Origin? Yes and no. If you're going into it expecting Ace 8, no. If you're going into it expecting something better than 1 through 5 and 6, sure. I don't think they're amazing. I'd say it's probably on par with 6, 7, and 9, or 10, you know, where you got your fighters, you got your villains, you're doing the thing, you're stabbing the people. You don't do the thing. It's an East game. It's just the East game without at-all in it, which is fine to a point. East is on its own. It's about hacky slashy stuff. You don't necessarily need at-all as the character. And I really kind of did appreciate that the main characters all had voices and characters. Yes, even Yugo, as dumb as he is, at least he had a voice and a character. I'm just not a fan of silent protagonists. Gee, what a shock. After 10 years, I've basically said I hate silent protagonists. Go me. But if you're here for fighting and an okay story, but you just want to get to the stabbing and the shooting and the stabbing and the clawing and the shooting and the stabbing for 10 hours and then another 6 or 10 hours for the other two, you got it. It's good. It's a lot of stabby stab, and East games are good stabby stabs. You get good music along the way, and it's great. Story characters, pretty bare bones, pretty basic shit. I do like Epona's story arc in the second game because going from a villain to an ally is kind of goofy and sweet, and like her interactions with Yugo are about the only good thing about that part of the fucking plot. Again, the villains outside of Epona kind of don't exist. The main characters outside of Toll don't really do much. The goddesses are fine. I like Unica a bit. Yugo's playthrough fucking sucks. Have I mentioned that 50 times already? Maybe not, but close. But yeah, go into it for the fighting. If you like the fighting of the first 10 or 15 minutes, you've got the game for the next 15 hours or 20 hours. And you've got East gameplay for the remainder of the series because it's very fast and frenetic, and they change it around here and there with some different styles, but by and large it's fast, crazy, and fun, and the music is good, and that's why you're there. So yeah, it's one of the better East games, but it's not up to par with 8 because nothing has been as good as 8. So just play East 8. It's great. Anyway, that'll do it for today, and hopefully the microphone sounds good. I'm moving closer to the stuff, so you might hear more. Anyway, East Origin is done, so next episode is going to be the Beginning. It'll be Mega Man 5 and Mega Man X5. If Lee and I can talk about Apothecary, we will. And then it will be Breath of Fire 3, The Story of Above Average, which basically means it's a game that's good at everything and not terrible at anything. It's not super amazing at any one thing, but it's good enough at everything. Actually, yes. No. The fishing minigame is fucking amazing. And everything else is above average. Anyway, that'll do for today. Hopefully the new microphone sounds good. I'll check it out when I improve the audio on this, or improve the volume on it. I will see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.